Hello, Brad here, just to say we're super proud that the Friday 5pm podcast is sponsored by the Malt Miller, the UK's best home brew store.
We use the Malt Miller for all of our homebrew experiments, as well as tapping them up for advice and binging on their awesome YouTube channel all the time.
That's why whenever we release a homebrew video, we put a recipe kit live on the Malt Miller, so you can brew with the exact same amazing ingredients that we did. The same ingredients used by pro brewers.
So alongside the Malt Miller's nitro-flushed hops, cold-stored yeast and milled-to-order malts, you can pick up recipe kits for our 5 Points Best Bitter, Russian River West Coast IPA, and now the fastest beer in the world, a hazy session IPA that goes from grain to glass in less than 48 hours.
Sign up to their newsletter at tinyurl.com/Malt Miller to get 5% off your first order. With the Malt Miller's amazing customer service and Johnny's 48-hour recipe, you could order the ingredients on a Monday and be drinking the beer by the weekend.
Speaking of which, it's Friday.
It's 5pm.
So enjoy this week's Friday 5pm podcast. Hey Beer Geeks, it's Friday, it's 5pm, which means it's time for the Friday 5pm podcast, and it's definitely past time for me to find a better intro to this podcast. Just an eyebrow raise from Brad there. How we doing, Bradders?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, I'm pretty drunk. I was hanging already, but now I'm drunk because I'm drinking some wicked beer.
And where's that wicked beer from, Brad?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I'd say Verdun.
What?
But you say homebrew.
Well, I made it, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I wasn't here. I was here for the brew day, but I think there's something fishy's happened because this is way too good to be a homebrew.
You think I've filled this wonderful keg next to me with Verdun beer just to troll you?
I think you spent several £100 on pints of Verdun to troll me. Because honestly, if I was at a beer festival and I discovered this little beauty, I would be all over it.
You'd be doing what Brad does best, which is like leaning on the bar with some poor barman or bar lady, just like another one of those, and you'll be telling them stories, the kind of stories you tell on the Friday 5pm podcast all the time.
Exactly.
For the rest of the session.
Exactly.
Which isn't really the point of beer festivals. The point of beer festivals is to try lots of stuff and discover new things, whereas you just zone in on one and go, yeah, more of that, please.
I like the vibe. If I find a vibe that I like, I'm all over it.
Yeah.
So I do a little bit of exploratory stuff, and then I'll probably set up base somewhere and just enjoy people and life and
like a
good things.
Vibe sticker.
Vibes, yeah, vibes. I'm all about vibes.
There is a sticker in that, just sticker that says vibes, and then your face on it.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's happened to you this week? I've promised we're recording this for YouTube as well, just to try and get some more viewers coming over and stimulate some discussion. So we're filming this, and I've promised the people on YouTube a great Brad story.
Yeah.
What have you got?
Well, usually I'm full of woe and kind of trouble in the week that's passed. This week's not much different, to be honest. I've got a scooter which I've had like a motorcycle, like a small motorcycle, 50cc scooter.
Somewhere between a pedal scooter.
Yeah, it doesn't have pedals, but it's not much faster than something you could pedal.
Yeah,
it goes about 30 mile an hour, and I love this thing, Johnny. I've had it for at least 10 years, and it's a Japanese imported thing. It's called a Honda Zuma. It looks like a military vehicle. It's painted olive drab green, and I will never sell this thing. So
what is olive drab?
Olive drab is like a military NATO colour.
Right.
So it's olive drab is an army green.
Okay.
Like a low shine army green, like a mid green.
Camouflagey,
but without the camouflage.
Yeah, not the pattern, but the colour.
Just the colour.
Yeah.
Just the colour. It's a NATO colour. Olive drab is. They call it OD.
Anyway, if we say olive drab one more time, I'm going to cry. What's happened to your olive drab scooter?
So, just pre-lockdown, I was on a bit of a ride on it, and it was maybe February, I think, in the year. It was quite cold, and the thing just started to conk out. I was about a mile away from home, and instead of going 30 miles an hour, it was going about 3 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's embarrassing.
And
you're being overtaken by walking
people. My
people.
hands were freezing, and I was like, oh my God, I've got to try and get this thing home before it dies. And my anxiety was off the chain because I love this thing. And in my head, I was like, I've got to get home. I've got to not get run over by fast passing vehicles.
That was a bold choice of words for a man that's drunk quite a lot of homebrew.
I got it home anyway, Johnny.
Yeah.
And I'm vaguely mechanical. I took the thing apart a bit, and I could see there was a problem with the drivetrain. Now, this was something I couldn't fix because I don't have impact driver. So I took it to my local garage, and I thought I was all fixed. I bought this new thing called a variator. We put it in.
Making up words at this point.
We offered it up, and it basically shit a brick. Didn't fit the engine. I managed to buy a variator on eBay for £1. That was.
I've got no reference point for that, but it sounds cheap.
It's like this bit of turned metal that spins at like 6,000 revs a minute. And this sort of salvage one we put in yesterday, me and the garage guy. It kind of worked, but the battery wasn't charged very well. Anyway, I left the garage and he told me to push it home. But as I left the yard, I started it, and it started. So I went off on a mad ride. I got
so you're
very
just like,
excited.
yeah. I'll just wheel it home.
And then I got carried away. So I didn't wheel it home. Instead, I rode to Blackheath on the top of Blackheath Mountain.
Which is a hill, right?
It's a big old hill. And I think the battery just died on the way up, basically. I got right up to the top, Johnny, and I sat there. It was a beautiful, glorious afternoon. I'd had a shitty day.
You revelled in disobeying the mechanic.
I turned the engine off. That's where I went wrong. I sat down on a bench and I WhatsApped my girlfriend on a video call in my helmet, and I said, "All right, babe, I'm on Blackheath. I've just ridden my motorbike. I'm so happy it's fixed."
And then you're like, "I'll be home in 10.
I'll be home in 10 minutes. I was like, I'm just gonna poodle back.
Yeah.
Went to start the engine. Nothing. The battery was totally dead. I had to wheel the thing home for like 4 or 5 miles. And then I had to go to a birthday party immediately afterwards. So it was just all kinds of bad. But
Did you tell the fascinating story to the people at the birthday?
I did. I kind of bored them with it a little bit. Some of them, Danny, whose birthday it was, I've known him since I was like 20.
Did you steal Danny's thunder?
No, definitely not. I didn't steal Danny's thunder. Not with the scooter chat.
Right.
But
other things,
other
dance
things.
moves.
No, there weren't any dance moves. There was a Dulux dog that
What?
was in the, like Andrex dog.
No, they're two different dogs. Andrex is a Labrador puppy.
No.
Dulux is the sheepdog.
Yes.
Sheepdog dog.
So we went to the Dog and Bell in Deptford, which is an amazing old man boozer. Jules
great
Holland
camera
drinks
place.
there. It's a camera pub, yeah. Real ale pub. We were sat in there, and this dog called Monty kept coming up to us, and very clever dog. It was pushing the door open to get out into the garden. I don't know why I've gone off on this tangent.
That's what you do, Brad.
I went off on this tangent. I don't know why.
Call it a Brad tangent.
Monty, a Brangent. Basically, I had a great day yesterday. I had a terrible day, then I had a great day, and then I woke up this morning and I had a massive banging headache from all the beer that I drank.
And you thought that what would solve that is a load of homebrew.
Homebrew, right? Because everyone knows that homebrew doesn't give you a hangover.
Yeah. I mean, homebrew has this reputation of being awful.
Yeah.
But given the technology we have, all the equipment we've been given by Malt Miller, the yeast we've been given by Lallemund, and the endless advice I got from James, who's the head brewer at Verdant, that we'll be putting in the video that's all about this homebrew. Homebrew is now, it can be incredibly high quality, as we've just learned. Even in my hands, it can be high quality. So I think this is a hangover cure for you.
Big time.
And I think I need to retract that instantly.
It shook me out of my funk coming over here, mostly because I had to get about 6 trains over because I
There we go.
bloody
Another sub
Thames thing
story
wasn't
from
working.
Brad.
But anyway, mates, I'm having such a great time. I've probably had 2 pints of this now.
Yeah, we have, and it's 6.2.
My God.
6.2%. But it is, blowing my own trumpet, it is a beautiful IPA.
Hey, I put some of that stuff in the brew day.
You put some Magnum hops in and some of the malt. Yep.
Didn't do a lot else.
Right, well, let's dig into this week's episode.
Yes.
So this week's episode was actually off the back of our live show that we did with London Craft Beer Festival 2 weekends ago.
So long ago already.
Feels like a long time ago.
I was actually at Little Faith last night. I went back.
Wait, you went back to the scene of the crime?
Yeah, so I was like social distancing, like doing the elbow thing to all the staff there who are awesome, and we had a great time hanging out with them. And I stayed on afterwards and had a little bit of a party with them.
Did
after
you?
hours. Yeah.
That's
good.
another Brad move as well. That's a Brangent.
Yeah.
So we did a live show, a 5-hour long live show with London Craft Beer Festival. The weekend that London Craft Beer Festival was supposed to happen, it's now happening in November. You can buy tickets now.
Yeah.
I'll put a link in the descriptor. And as part of that, we filmed a load of stuff from the local area. So we went to Brewery, we met up with 5 Points, We did a tour of the
Mikella.
Mikella Brew Pub. That was last week's video. This week's video was our brick tour.
Yeah.
Firstly, I'd like to apologise for the sound quality in the second half where we were doing the tasting. It was incredibly loud and one of our microphones bailed on us, so that was frustrating. However, it's still audible, it's just not ideal. But, I mean, I put this as the video title. I think Brick are one of the most underrated breweries in London, if not the UK.
Gotta be, right?
Yeah, I mean, we had a great double IPA, which shouldn't be the measure of a brewery, but it often is because of what what people are drinking. But they had an incredible cellared lager, like an 8-week Keller beer, and then their sours. If you've never had them, their sours are the best in the country. They take a very different approach to every single one, like varying the IBUs, the acidity, the malt bills, and obviously the amounts of different ingredients going in. Whereas I think a lot of breweries take a kind of one-size-fits-all approach and just go, well, we'll add 100 grams of that, not 100 grams, I'm thinking homebrew there, a couple of kilograms of this fruit, and this fruit. And I think they take a really almost kind of chefy approach to getting balance from their beers. And none of them are like just massively fruity smoothie beers. They're all really refreshing, refined, and therefore kind of complex beers, even if they're very light and drinkable. There's little notes popping off of different things.
That Verbena one we had was awesome.
Yeah, lemon verbena was what a beautiful beer that was. And so we put that live. We didn't think it was going to get huge views because that's what happens when you put a video of an underrated brewery live. But we really want to champion those guys because I think they make stellar beer,
big time,
within and without the core range.
I mean, I was drinking Keller Pills, on my canoe. I was on holiday last week in Sussex.
Yeah, you talked about it last week on the podcast.
Yeah, I was. Oh, did I really?
Yeah.
There you go. I'm repeating myself like an old man, so I won't go there.
Yeah. You give Brad a 20-minute window to talk every week, and he just repeats himself. But so you were drinking that while you were...
Yeah, I was drinking Keller Pills. So I had my little cool box, my little Coleman cool box in the front of the canoe, and I was reaching out and bringing them out.
Cans.
So good, man.
Brad very sweetly got me a little Coleman box, which I'm going camping this weekend. I'm going up to Little Earth Project,
nice,
which is an amazing brewery and pub, and they've got camping sites. We're going there, and I'll be taking my little Brad given cool box
Pleasure,
for our
mate.
beers. Thank you.
No worries.
Should we dive into the comments? The comment I picked out actually isn't from the Brick video.
Yeah.
It's actually from our live show with Wild Beer Co.
Ooh.
So we do a live show every month with a specific brewery or on a specific theme in which we talk about that theme or that brewery and taste their beers. And you can buy the boxes in advance and taste along. And we got a comment. Somebody had clearly watched this after the fact. And it's from Lee Cassidy, and he says, "G'day, fellas." I don't think he's Australian because he's drinking wild beer. Said, "Really enjoyed the session with Wild Beer Co. Absolutely fantastic. When Brett mentioned coriander seeds producing pineapple flavours, I'm fascinated. Do you know the style of beer he added it to, or what stage of the brew process the seeds were added, and if they were whole or crushed?" So he's clearly a home brewer. He's looking to add that.
Yeah.
So the reason I picked that out is because I had my mind blown. Maybe about a year ago, I was drinking a Left-Handed Giant beer, so an amazing brewery from Bristol, and they, on the ingredients list, it was a New England IPA, and on the ingredients list it said coriander seed. So I was like, that's super interesting. It's definitely not like trying to have a wit beer vibe. There's no Belgian yeast, there was no of the traditional orange peel that you'd also add to a wit beer. So I put a question out on Twitter, and I think it was Left-Handed Giant that replied and said, we add coriander seed because it's got high levels of, and I forget which of the hop compounds it is, but it's either like geraniol, linalool, one of these flavour compounds.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you can, it's not amplifying what's already there. It's literally adding more of that flavour compound to the beer.
So it's something. Is it a biotransformation thing that happens? Or it's just it's there already. The sort of essential oil is within.
I think the essential oil is within the coriander, but you have to add it under the right conditions so that it doesn't biotransform.
Right.
So I think if you add it during the boil, which is what you do with a wit beer, you won't get it. You get the spicy, earthy,
like herbal kind of thing.
The character that you get in a wit beer.
Yes.
Whereas if you add it during fermentation, you won't destroy that compound, and you'll get
pineapple.
Well, so Brett said pineapple. I get more kind of sweet mango, more fleshy kind of.
So like a
vibes.
real ripe kind of thing. Wow.
Absolutely, yeah. And so I've seen actually a couple of Left-Handed Giant beers that are not at all Belgian inspired have coriander in, where they've wanted to elevate that kind of really ripe fruity element. So it's definitely a thing.
Wowza.
I don't think coriander is an allergen in any way, so I don't think they have to particularly declare it. But it's super interesting that we've found these other ways of doing it. I mean, it reminds me of, Lagunitas, not a brewery we like to champion anymore because of their ownership of Heineken, but they teamed up with maybe Berkeley University and released a genetically modified yeast that took, I think it was linalool from, maybe it was the basil plant, inserted it into the yeast, and then managed to get all of these really fruity, fresh flavours out of the yeast. So they were injecting what are generally perceived as hop compounds into the yeast, and during the yeast fermentation process, you release those compounds again. So people are trying to find ways to use maybe less hops, which, probably from a craft perspective seems a bit, it's cutting corners, which has never been the craft way.
I mean, it's not like they're not adjuncts as such, are they? They're GMO stuff, so you're getting different kind of compounds and whatnot from the yeast. Because hops are really expensive as well, aren't they? This is the other thing.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was looking to get to. It seems like a shortcut, but hops are incredibly expensive. The amount of hops you have to put into a New England IPA, there's such a volume of hops that you waste both beer and hops.
Yeah.
So people are looking at ways to go, well, we can get the same flavours by adding a little bit less hops, wasting a little bit less beer. And efficiency to a point is good. Efficiency for, with the idea of being sustainable is a great thing. Efficiency in the way that many macro brews have done it, which is margin efficiency, is different. So it might work out a little bit cheaper to be adding coriander or to be using GMO yeasts. But the intent should be to reduce wastage, to increase flavour, to increase reliability of flavour as well, because hops obviously vary a lot.
Yeah, year
upon year. Yeah, there's vintages, seasons.
I think I'm quite anti-GMO stuff in general, but I think it's a way of pushing forward craft beer and like sort of playing with the edges of stuff.
And GMO, I think also, there's probably lots of unethical stuff happening within GMO, but yeast is used actually a lot in genetically modified stuff. It's used a lot in medicine because it's a very simple little organism. And there's nothing that can really go wrong with it. So it's quite an ethical way of playing with it. You're not going to create some kind of superhuman yeast that's going to take over the world. You're not modifying or invading on any people's rights. Or
I think people get a bit scared about things like crops and also grafting bits of pigs onto human DNA and all this kind of crazy shit. But we're talking about single-celled organisms here. Pretty much. Just making them have different kind of flavour profiles and esters.
Yeah, you're just changing little pathways. So it's saying, well, while you produce this CO2 and this all these other compounds, I've just edited a little bit of DNA and added this extra flavour compound you're going to produce.
Which is kind of exciting. And it's something that we've been doing as humans, I think, at least from the Victorian era. They used to hybridise apple trees and flower varieties. Dogs. We've bred dogs to be, from like a husky to like a tiny little
hops
chihuahua.
Themselves. Cascade hops, which is what started the American craft beer revolution, was a hybrid of, I think, an American hop and fungus to try and breed out susceptibility to certain funguses. So we obviously it's very different when you're doing it in a lab with a needle and editing DNA. But at the end of the day, you're still editing DNA by forcing two things to kind of mate. And, lots of the malts that we consume, whether it's beer or any other product, are intervened with. Not necessarily genetically, but they are crossbred to have certain
you're breeding it for the strength or the reliability of the crop. Or, I
think Golden Promise is the famous example of people trying to breed the perfect brewing malt.
Yeah.
Or, grain.
I think it's all really exciting stuff that is only going to get more exciting and more involved as we go on.
Yeah.
And there's more demand for it. And I think the Verdant thing that's going on is a great example of that. Like previously, it was pretty hard to do like a really good New England homebrew, and now there's almost like this like magic secret sauce that you can just pour in. Obviously, some skill involved, but
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, huge amounts of the flavour of the beer that we're drinking does come from that yeast.
Yeah,
and I mean, as far as I know, there's no genetic modification that's been going on there. That would be quite the story.
I didn't want to imply that. All I wanted to say was that, like, you know, the kind of, you know, the around the outer edges of stuff like yeast. A lot of people don't think about yeast when they're homebrewing, I don't think, and it can be like amazingly.
Yeah, I mean,
stuff.
the wonderful story which is in our video is about how basically Verdant were given a contaminated yeast batch, and they took out one of those contaminants, and that's become their house yeast. And that couldn't have been done without a laboratory and picking that out. So there's lots of exciting stuff happening within laboratories that is changing the way that beer is made, the way that food's made, the way that drugs are made as well.
Yeah.
Like GMO is heavily used in the production of drugs in a safe way to save lives. And well, we're just reaping the beery benefits right now. And it's enabled me to brew my first good New England IPA. Not good, really good New England IPA.
Like, excellent. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Speaking of, pour me another little bit.
You need
please,
another
Johnny.
pour. Well,
I am riding a bicycle home, but who cares?
So we're reaching the end of this week's Friday 5 p.m. We've waffled on for a solid 25 minutes. And I'm sure that Brad will continue to waffle because I'm pouring him a full glass. So it looks like Brad and I are starting a session, so we're going to leave you there, I think. Thank you very much for tuning in, both on YouTube and to us here, as always, on the Friday 5 p.m. podcast at Friday on 5 p.m.
Yeah.
Come on, Johnny. Keep it together.
Yes. Just all you need to do, guys, search for The Bubble on whatever you stream your podcast on.
From.
And give us a listen. Give us a go. Why not?
Give us a listen and give us a rating as well. So we put an appeal out to get some ratings from people that really, really helped us. And now we're in the top 100 podcasts for food and drink in the UK, which is crazy. Hey! So please do rate us if you enjoy what we're doing. And if you're listening to the podcast but don't know the YouTube channel, head to youtube.com/the craft beer channel, I think. Or Craft Beer Channel, one of the two. Otherwise, we'll catch you next Friday. And obviously, every single Wednesday at 4 p.m, we will have another video going live. To homebrew, Bradley.
Oh, to homebrew, mate. We love you.
The Bubble Podcast is brought to you by the nerds behind YouTube's Craft Beer Channel. Head to youtube.com/the Craft Beer Channel to watch this week's video and over 400 more exciting episodes. If you love what we do, please do subscribe and even join our Patreon at patreon.com/craftbeerchannel. Love and beer.